All right, so let's get right into it. We're talking about a case that is, well, it's incredibly complex and, frankly, pretty unsettling. It's the story of Suchir Balaji. He was a 26-year-old researcher, formerly with OpenAI. And just weeks, I mean weeks, after he came forward as a whistleblower, accusing the company of some huge copyright violations, he was found dead. The official ruling? Suicide. But his family, they are adamant that it was murder. And that's where this whole thing begins, a fight for the truth that just seems to question everything.
And this really is the heart of the entire conflict, right? On one side, you've got the official story from the San Francisco Police Department. They looked at the evidence from November 26, 2024, and they ruled it a suicide, plain and simple. But on the other side, you have his family, and they are absolutely convinced he was murdered. So you've got these two completely different stories, and we're going to dig into both of them.
Now, the family's fight for the truth, it's not just about grief, They have built their entire case on a list of really troubling inconsistencies and, importantly, physical evidence. These are details that, in their eyes, just don't line up with the official story at all. So, what are we talking about here? Well, the family's suspicions are rooted in some really specific stuff. For starters, they paid for their own independent autopsy, and that report, it found a wound trajectory that was described as atypical and uncommon for a suicide. The investigators they brought in also found what they say are clear signs of a struggle, things like a broken cheekbone and blood in more than one room. When you add all that physical evidence to the fact that Suchir had just gotten back from a birthday vacation and had zero history of mental health problems, you can see why the idea of suicide just seemed completely impossible to his parents. Okay, so you've got all these questions piling up and an official ruling that the family just cannot accept. So what's their next move? They take legal action. But here's the interesting part. Their first lawsuit wasn't an accusation of murder, nope. It was a demand for something way more basic, information.
And that's the crucial thing here. They said they felt like they were being stymied at every turn. So the family actually sued the city of San Francisco. Their argument was pretty straightforward. Under the California Public Records Act, they should have the right to see the complete investigation file. They were basically alleging that the police were illegally holding back these records, which you can imagine just made them even more suspicious that something was being covered up.
All right, so they're hitting a wall trying to get the official records. What happens next? Well, their legal fight escalates. Big time. Their next move was a second lawsuit, and this one was way more explosive. They weren't just asking for info anymore. Now, they were making direct allegations of a cover-up.
And this quote, right from their court filing, says it all. It shows just how much things had changed. The family is now on the record formally accusing the people who owned and managed Suchir's apartment building of, get this, altering the death scene.
So the second lawsuit, which they filed in September of 2025, is a wrongful death complaint. It has 9 separate counts. And it's aimed at the corporations that own and manage the building, Alta Laguna and Holland Partner Group, which does business as Greystar. And the core claim is this, that their actions, whether they were just negligent or actually intentional, either led to Suchir Balaji's death or they actively covered up what really happened. And the specific things they lay out in this lawsuit, they're pretty stunning. The family is alleging that security cameras were turned off, that the CCTV footage they did get was incomplete and had messed up timestamps, and that important package logs just vanished. They even claim an exhaust fan was installed in the apartment after he died, and that the building management actually stopped first responders from getting in at first. You put all that together, and it paints a picture of a crime scene that was, let's say, deliberately compromised.
Okay, so while all this legal stuff is happening, the case takes a really strange turn online. A fringe theory starts picking up steam, and it's a wild one. It doesn't just offer an explanation for what happened to Suchir Balaji, it proposes this radical, almost science fiction way to prove it.
So at the heart of this whole online theory is a concept they call reverse EM ballistics. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, and for now, it pretty much is. But the people who believe in it say it's based on a real convergence of different technologies. So let's just try to unpack what they're even talking about. The whole theory is built on this idea they call nano-antenna resonance. Okay, stick with me here. They point to a Chinese patent and claim that if someone has nanoscale stuff in their body, like graphene oxide, which they connect to vaccines, then those tiny particles could basically act like antennas. They'd resonate with electromagnetic waves, like Wi-Fi, and then emit their own little signal. And that leads us to the most important part of their theory, what they call the Blee trace field. The idea is that if Suchir Balaji was vaccinated, he was essentially turned into a walking, talking biometric beacon. He'd be giving off this constant low-energy Bluetooth signal. And that signal, they argue, would make him completely traceable on this huge invisible grid. So you might be asking, what grid? Where does this grid come from? Well, the theory points to the insane network of sensors that are already all over a city like San Francisco. I mean, just think about it. You've got thousands of Ring doorbells, you've got the Apple Find My network pinging everything all the time, Teslas with their cameras always on, ShotSpotter mics, even 5G microcell data. The argument is that the data to solve this case, to trace Suchir's final moments and maybe even find his killer, is already out there. It's already been captured by this massive surveillance network we all live in.
And this all builds up to their proposed plan, which has a pretty cool name, I'll admit, Trace the Shadow. The idea is you use things like freedom of information requests to get all this raw sensor data from Apple, Google, Tesla, you name it. Then you analyze it all to build an electromagnetic reconstruction of the crime scene. And from there, you can bring charges for what they're calling a premeditated biometric assassination. It's a fascinating idea, even if it is incredibly far-fetched. So let's just zoom out for a second here. It doesn't really matter if you're following the family's very real legal battle or you're going down the rabbit hole of these wild online theories. The death of Suchir Balaji has become this truly modern mystery. It's sitting right at that crossroads where you have advanced technology on one side and our trust in institutions on the other. And that, right there, is the central paradox of this whole thing, isn't it? I mean, from Suchir's actual work in AI to these theories about biometric signals, technology is wrapped up in every single part of this story. It's seen as both the weapon that might have been used to silence a whistleblower, and at the exact same time, it's the only tool people are proposing to get to the truth.
Which really just leaves us with this one big, lingering question. We live in a world of deepfakes and AI, right? A world where our cities are just swimming in these invisible streams of data. The very idea of evidence is changing right before our eyes. So in a case like this one, where you have the official story clashing with these really complex counterstories, how are we supposed to agree on what's even real anymore?